in essence, not complacent. Block the banquet, stop the computation. I'ma make the coda, fools just wanna make the quota. They can't rock around here, they need baking soda. This a hydra, no way they taking over. Lay them below the basement with snakes and cobras.
This is the INKPULP podcast.
Turning your art into a career.
Yeah. So on the outside, it's something different. I think on the website, it's something different again. So things fell by the wayside a little bit, but take a moment to introduce ourselves. My name is Ramon Perez. I've worked for a variety of publishers over the years: Marvel, DC, IDW, Dark Horse, Archaea. I've been very lucky to work on some great projects and collaborate with some great and talented people. And to my left is...
I'm Sean Crystal, and like Ramon, I've worked for Marvel, DC, Oni, Dark Horse, Boom, Valiant, a lot of stuff for a while.
Yeah.
I also I'm online known as INKPULP, and I have my own online art school called INKPULP INSTRUCtiON, which we'll talk about more in a bit.
My name's DAX Gordine. I've worked with Marvel Comics, done some independent stuff, which I'm working on by myself and getting printed through Raid Press right now. I've also worked in video game design. I worked on, probably the most notable would be Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare. So I've done a lot of character design stuff too, webcomic stuff throughout the years as well. Bandai Namco, that was the studio I worked for.
Yeah, and I think one thing you'll see through as we talk about our careers and stuff, because I've been doing this probably about, I think, 25 years now, probably say similar for a lot of the people here on this. 15. Oh, 50. Well, you taught for 10 years.
Right, well, I got my first job, and then I got my second job a decade later. That's how it went for me.
Baby steps, Sean. Baby steps.
Right.
But the cool thing about being a creative and an artist in general is you can often pivot your career, change directions, as you'll see with the kind of things we're doing individually and as a whole here. So whereas I've worked in comics, I've also done advertising work, animation work, and different things. And so these days, I'm part of a studio by the name of Raid, which is a collective of artists in Toronto. We got about 18 to 20 members. And we share a studio space. We're all individuals freelancing. Some people have been new to the career, like 5 years. Other ones have been going for 20 or 25, like myself. Sometimes we collaborate on larger projects for clients, and other times we just tackle it individually on our own, basically. But there's a power in numbers. And about 5 years ago, we started our own publishing arm at the studio as well to publish our own content as we were just eager to do our own thing. And with the avenues available for you today, you're able to do these things so much more easier than you were able to do them 10, 15 years ago. Oh, we got a fourth here. Welcome.
Sorry.
Introduce yourself for doing the introductions.
Take a moment to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Danish. I'm a comic book illustrator, cartoonist, humor, satire here at Raid, and I think that's it for now. I'm sure we'll talk more.
So I'm just going to run you through some of the things we've been doing over the past years, if this PowerPoint works. And oh my God, it does. That's great. So we're creator-driven. Oh, all the fonts are different, but what are you going to do? But as I said, we're a creator-driven publisher. We like to have the ideas of our creators put to the forefront, get their ideas out there, and let them share their work, basically. We've done a series of anthologies which feature the work of not only our studio, but national and international artists, kind of just doing their own thing, showcasing stories they want to tell on their own time, basically, just to get them out there and in people's view and eyes, basically. And so right now we're actually doing the fourth anthology, which is on Kickstarter currently. And this is a model we turned to over the pandemic, basically, where before we were self-funding, but with the availability of things like Kickstarter, especially for as a group or as individuals like yourselves, you can actually take your own projects and make them a reality through the community of not only Kickstarter, but your friends and family and your peers as well, which has been fantastic to realize a lot of our own work. We've also been doing heritage comics, collecting old 1940s, 1950s historical Canadian comics, showcasing artists that kind of laid the groundwork for the kind of stuff we do up here in the north. And actually, this is Dax's book here, Forest Folk. He just had Volume 1 released last year, and we're embarking on Volume 2 as well in the coming months on Kickstarter, utilizing the platform as we can to his best. And this was actually a stray away from graphic novels to novels. We have a few novelists in our studio as well, screenwriters, animation writers, TV show writers. So it's a great way for them to actually get their content out there as well. It's not limited just to graphic novels or comic books. And this is mine. This is a book I'll be launching in May of this year, and bringing a long story I've been working on for probably a good decade now to print. So I'm really excited about this as well. And if you ever want to find us, it's raidpress.com. We're very easy to find on social media and on the internet. And then I'll hand it over to this guy.
Awesome. So INKPULP INSTRUCtiON, like I said, I'm an artist like everyone up here, and I also taught at Savannah College of Art and Design. In Atlanta, they opened a campus, and I built the sequential art department with my friend Pat. Sequential art is just comic book art, and taught there while I was working for Marvel for a while, and had a lot of guests like Ramon come down and give lectures. And I left teaching probably 7 or so years ago just to do comics full time, and I was tired of teaching for what's essentially a corporation. And when the pandemic hit, I asked myself a lot of questions. What do I want to be doing? And I missed teaching. I missed passing on information and connecting with people that way. But I didn't want to work for a school again. So I decided, because I have all this experience, I have a podcast too. So, and my partner Alan is shooting us now. We got together and decided to create INKPULP INSTRUCtiON, which is we create videos that are lessons. The bulk of the videos are with me, and they're very lesson driven. And then I have these special guest episodes with other artists, like we're filming with Ramon this week while we're here. But I have Eric Canetti, Jim Mahfood, Tommy Lee Edwards, Jeff DeCal, Sean Murphy. And those episodes, you get to watch an artist create a piece entirely. Each artist chooses a focus, what the lesson will be kind of focused on. And I ask questions, and it invites you into the head of the artist as they're creating, so you can understand what they're doing, why they're doing it, and hear them explain it as they're going. So INKPULP INSTRUCtiON is like an online episodic school. It's on there. You can buy episodes individually, and I also have a subscription plan, which is like a virtual classroom. And right now, so I've got, if you're interested in any of this, if you text the word INKPULP to that number, you'll get a free lesson, and you can get a sample of what you do. And also, if you want to talk to me further beyond this panel, I'm downstairs in Artist Alley, and I've got like some stuff to give away. I've got a thumb drive with sample chapters on it, and you can ask me whatever questions you want.
Yeah, and we're all located around the P40 to P49 section of Artist Alley, which is the back wall. Yeah. So I guess, really, now it's, onto the body of the panel. I'm not used to moderating things, so this is hilarious.
You want me to moderate?
Well, but yeah, turning your art into a career, basically.
Yeah, so when I was talking to Ramon about this panel, I thought it'd be interesting to all of us tell our story. Like, we all grew up, I assume, loving drawing. So how did we turn that like childhood passion into an actual career? And there's different paths a lot of us take. Some go to art school, some get a mentor, some are totally self-taught. So I was curious to hear from all of you guys what your story is.
Let's start with Danesh, since he arrived late.
Hello. So I was actually born in India, and I grew up in Dubai. Does everyone know where Dubai is? I guess. And yeah, sort of.
It's hot, right?
In the Middle East, and it's really hot. Yeah. And yeah, I grew up there, and we had access to comics just like here, but not as many. And I grew up on Mad Magazine and Asterix and a lot of Tintin and different Marvel comics. And yeah, and I just started by, just like most people I think, which was just copying comics and just loving art and loving to create it myself. And then at the end of when I graduated from high school in Dubai, my parents, who are Indian and very traditional at the time, took me down the road of Bachelor of Science to study medicine. And I knew on my first calculus exam, I think, that this probably wasn't for me. And slowly I kind of veered off within University of Toronto to like psychology and biology and things that were a bit more than English literature. And finally I had done my duty. I had finished my degree, and I decided to get into Sheridan College. Does everyone know Sheridan College? It's in Oakville. And I did illustration there for a little bit. And from there I moved back to Dubai, and I started working for a newspaper in Dubai called the Gulf News. And I did editorial illustration, I did cartoons, I did courtroom sketching. I got in lots of trouble drawing in public in Dubai. It's not really.
It's illegal?
It's illegal, yeah. I've had like my sketchbook taken from me, papers torn out of my sketchbook. I've had like all sorts of, I've had warnings. I've had lots of warnings.
You're a rabble rouser.
Wow.
Yeah, I was just drawing. Yeah, I mean, because a lot of like good drawing skill comes from drawing from life. So I was always trying to just get better that way. And then eventually I met a Spanish girl, and I moved to Spain. I followed her to Spain, and I started freelancing. And I did like I did like a whole campaign for the Dubai Metro. I started working for magazines and Scholastic and all sorts of different things. And eventually we found ourselves back in Toronto, and it was great when I got here to meet up with I messaged Ramon because I knew about Raid because I was in Toronto before.
Yeah.
But then I messaged him. I'm like, oh, you guys have space, and then you guys were in like a smaller space, I think. And for me, it was just amazing to see. I think the value of having other artists around you and like learning from them, and like having other people around you who are solving similar problems to you makes you solve your problems a lot faster and lets you just get to the next stage a lot faster. And and then we started doing these anthologies. In Raid 3, I had a comic on called Dr. Cucaracha, and that actually took us, I did it with a writer who was working for an animation company, and we ended up pitching to like Hulu and Adult Swim, and I got in touch with Netflix. I'm still in touch with them. So just having like a 6-page story in Raid 3 took us to all these steps forward and opened up all these doors. And just having all these connections is a lot of my projects now that I'm doing. Like I'm working on like a 200-page graphic novel, 3 kids books, and I have to say that it's all because of my connections through Raid that all happened. So like the importance of, as an artist, not just like the work you do being good and improving, but also, you know, hanging around with professionals and learning from them and talking. And and I can never underestimate the importance of that. So here we are now.
Danesh, can I ask you, so before college, when you were younger, were you always drawing? You had a passion for it as a child?
Yes.
Did your parents put you in any classes?
No, not at all. Yeah.
So did you find yourself looking for like books on how to draw and stuff like that?
No, I didn't. I just copied.
You were copying stuff you were a fan of?
I was just copying. Like similar to Dax, I was a fan of Asterix and stuff.
Right. Yeah. So was your first art class in college?
Yes. I wouldn't count my high school art classes as classes.
Right. I think that's true for a lot of us. I think that's true.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
So it was college, yeah.
Who's next? You, me?
I can go.
Okay.
Yeah, art classes in high school are more just kind of like, do you like to draw? Like, but no, let's see. How did art go from, how did I make it a career? I don't know. I just kind of like, I'm sure like anyone if anyone is anyone in here interested in art as a career for starters, or yeah, cool. So yeah, basically it's like, it's hard to say because you just love to draw or you like to create stuff, write stories and all that kind of stuff. And as a kid, I mean, my dad, I kind of grew up around comic books and stuff like that because my dad was a distributor in Burlington, so in Toronto, so the Toronto area, he distributed comics to all the stores there and stuff. So I was in the warehouse every weekend, looking at comics and stuff. Oh, wow. And he was an artist too. Awesome. So, he was like, I remember I would always, every morning, I'd sneak up and like look at his old portfolio case, and it was like drawings he did when he was 16, like these like Marlboro Man sketches and stuff like the newspapers and all that kind of stuff back in the 50s and 60s and stuff. So, and I was just super inspired by all that stuff. So I always wanted to draw like him. So, between him bringing me back a copy of X-Men every week, I do the same thing. You start by sketching and drawing from that, trying to copy it. It just developed a passion for drawing, and I just always I went through school as well going, what do I want to draw, but it's hard, and I wasn't that great, honestly. And I'm a poster child for, you don't have to. I think a lot of people I'm not that great, or I can't draw like I see these other people drawing, so I have no chance. I'm a perfect example of somebody who put in hours and over years has made a job out of drawing. So my passion kept me going forward, and it's just a practice skill, right? Yes, there are going to be the people out there that they have a second eye for this stuff, and they're always just going to have a step up on you, but that's just the world as it is, right? Like, it's how it goes. I've pushed myself through my passion and love of animation. I went to school, I went to Sheridan as well and did animation there. So I was trying to go to the Mickey Mouse house and draw, Beauty and the Beast Part 4. So I did dabble in some anime. I got to do some animation back in my day in Toronto. Yeah, like it was just my passion to draw and get better and stuff like that. And college really focused that because I was like 19 and I'd come out of high school. I took a year off. My dad made me work for that year, and I really kind of focused and was like, no, this is what I want. And it was just really just drive and practice and practice and practice. And here I am now. Like, again, like Danesh said, it's being able to make a career out of is definitely who you know. And in some cases, your art speaks for itself. But you'd be very surprised, like these cons and meeting people and becoming friends with people and colleagues that you go to school with that get that job that then say, oh, this guy's really good or this girl's really good too, stuff like that. You'll be surprised. It's being a good person, somebody who's fun to work with, and hitting deadlines and doing the best work you can. That's what will kind of, put you in your lane. And if you're happy doing it, then you just keep getting better and better, and jobs lead to other jobs. And I'm sure these guys can all attest to that, and where they've kind of grown in their career. And so yeah, it really just boils down to a passion, right? If you love doing it, then you're going to put in the hours to kind of make it a career,
So let me ask you, Dax, in terms of developing your skill set,
Yep.
Was that all done while you were at Sheridan primarily?
No, I did kind of what you said. Like I always drew a lot as a kid, obviously, right? You're in your bedroom drawing and stuff like that. And I think my dad somehow managed to get hold of like the Preston Blair How to Draw books.
Oh,
right?
Those are good books.
So yeah, like those little animation ones, and yeah, and so I kind of leaned, because I was not very good. Like my dad was very good at the freehand copying. So like, you got a drawing in front of you or a picture, and you can like draw it from that. I was never very good at the spacing. I'd always have, like, it would never look as perfect as I wanted. So when he got me these books that showed, here's how to draw the circle, and you can draw your own characters. So I started drawing the dog characters and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of veered more into, I'm not good enough to do it this way in my brain, little 12-year-old me saying I don't like, so I'm going to draw my own characters. So I started going down that route. So I did a lot of the books. I did a lot of the how to draw the Marvel way stuff,
So you were on your own figuring it out.
Yeah, until I got into high school, and then it was like, okay, well, I want to get into animation. I was big into the Disney stuff at the time. That was when things like, Beauty and the Beast had just come out, Aladdin, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I want to be an animator. So that's when I started gearing up in high school for that kind of thing. And so that's when I started hearing about things like life drawing classes and, like actually learning basics and fundamentals to push yourself in the professional direction, which and you'll be surprised, everyone will always ask, that's the first question, like what kind of skills do I, or what do I need to practice to, you know, get into comics or whatever. Here it's comics mostly. And the first thing should usually be, you know, life drawing, draw from life, model figure drawing, just reference nature, because it's not always the most fun thing to do, but you'd be surprised. Like, I put in a good chunk of time at Sheridan College when it was animation. That was a very big part of the program, was kind of having your figure studies done. So I know how much of a jump that made in my ability to draw. You know, I look back 2 years after that, and I was much better than I was before I'd done it. So it is very, very important. So you got to kind of suck it up and do those things. Plus, you might find a new passion for it, because it's an amazing skill. I envy people that can do good life drawing stuff, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, I always say life drawing is like taking your vitamins.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it is. It is.
I haven't taken my vitamins in years.
Yeah, and it's true. I stopped taking my vitamins.
I mean, yeah, when you get busy.
Yeah, you get busy, but I mean, it's always good to keep learning and do that kind of stuff. So making time for that will just... Art is very much a practice skill, and the more you do it, the better you get at your craft. So it's kind of just up to you. Like I said, that's how I've made my career, is just by kind of wanting it, you know what I mean? And stumbling into some projects, and things are going well now, and it feels like it's on the up and up. So, I mean, you just keep going for it and enjoy what you have while you have it, so.
Woo! There you go.
Thank you.
Well, just, I mean, like many of the gentlemen right here, I've been drawing since I was a kid. What the impetus was for that, I don't know. I think my mother often takes credit. She gave me little art lessons when I was a kid, when she was preggers with my sis. Whether
So
that's
your mother was an artist.
No, neither of my parents were artists, but they could draw, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
they're, you know, my parents were from like the old world, where my dad was a mechanic, my mother was a nurse. But my mother would draw portraits of like people's face, but very rudimentary, like, you know, faces and stuff. My dad would draw cars and exploded mechanics for, you know, when he took apart a car, he would like, but beautiful, just beautifully 3D rendered, all in pencil crayon and stuff like that. But, you know, they came from a generation where art was not a career, it was a pastime that maybe you did, right? But that, whether that was the impetus of me drawing, but then after that I just started drawing everything around the house, for little statues we had or objects, and then like in my younger years, I, you know, discovered some of the there was like some Spanish, my dad would bring home these Spanish comic collections with these weird characters from Spain, and I fell in love with the Sunday Funnies. That's where I really kind of got my first taste of comic books. Like Garfield, Mother Goose and Grimm, eventually Calvin and Hobbes. So my roots really lie in that kind of art, and that's where I first kind of began to explore my own abilities, I guess. And just like many people of my generation, I think it was Star Wars and a lot of the movies around that time that really just exploded my brain for the idea of storytelling, the fantastical. So I remember at younger years, I would... with friends, we'd create like our own Sunday Funnies anthologies. We'd make up our own characters. We'd like print them out, laminate this whole book or whatever it was, you know. It's probably in a drawer somewhere at my parents' house, but I never actually copied other characters. I was just kind of like what you guys were saying, you made up your own. And that really just drove me forward. And it wasn't really, you know, you don't really think of it as a career. When you're that young, it's just a passion of something you like to do. For me, it was also maybe a bit of escapism as well. Just so you find it's a safe world you can play in, you create your own stories and that sort of thing. And my mother, when I was in my, I guess, younger preteen years, bless her soul, put me in a couple of like night school art classes, which was great because I was like probably 9 or 10, and everybody else was like 22 and over. Like it was,
Wow.
they were like adult art classes. But
Was it like drawing still lives?
yeah, it was drawing still lifes. It was drawing some figure drawing. Some of it was like other
Wow.
stuff, and like it was very weird. But like, you know, the teacher was helpful. He gave me pointers. Sometimes a bit of a stubborn kid. I was like, no, I want to do it my way, you know. But I mean, you know, she put in the effort. She saw the skill set. She put in the effort, and was always very supportive in that regard. And in high school and stuff, like I obviously. You know, you got your crew of friends, you got your art friends in high school, and I just, you know, I discovered comic books by that point, Marvel stuff, DC stuff, and began to like try to, you know, draw more realistic and stuff. You know, pretty much self-taught. I would pick up books like How to Draw the Marvel Way, or I can't remember some of the other books, like the famous artist books. I'm blanking on them right now, but the classic like illustration books of like the 70s and 80s. And I would just pretty much teach myself. And when it came to the end of my high school career, I really didn't know what to do with my art. It was like I looked at things like architecture, fashion design, concept design, graphic design. It was really just like an unknown. There was no internet where you could just punch in like what to do as an artist. It was, you know, you went to your guidance counselor and they gave you a few suggestions and you were like, I don't want to do any of that. But luckily, a family friend recommended Sheridan, which, as you know, a few of us have gone to here, which is a local college now, I think kind of a university where, you know, back in the 80s, you know, Disney would handpick animators out of this program because it was such a well-regarded program. And so I looked at this animation program and I felt it wasn't for me, but while looking, I discovered the illustration program and basically took this intensive 3-year program, which I felt definitely accelerated I feel like school is a place, I'm not sure if any of you are in art school right now or any kind of creative school, but school is a place, for me anyways, you're going to get inundated with so much knowledge, and at the time you might not even know what to do with it. It wasn't sometimes till like the summer after I learned it or the year after, it would all kind of be like, oh, you know, what the painting teacher taught with the object draw, I could combine that knowledge. You know, it's just kind of weird. Maybe I'm a bit slow, I don't know, but
no, that sounds about right to me.
And so it's just kind of fascinating. You're just given so much, and it just starts coming together. And
I think, like, as a teacher, after teaching art for a while and being a student myself, there's a lot of guessing and a lot of unknown, and you spend a lot of time in your head trying to figure it out. And a lot of teachers I find aren't great at being clear with the communication of the lesson. So, what I did as a teacher is I was always very focused on being clear, like, why are you doing this? What is this going to give you as an artist? Because I'd have students come in from foundations and start asking questions. It's like, well, didn't you have drawing 1? Well, yeah, and what did you do? We just drew what was in front of us. And so for me as a teacher, it was always very important to not just like make a student copy something they saw or just follow my direction, but to explain, like, here's a tool I'm going to give you. You have to put it to use and experiment with it and stab it from every angle and take from it what works for you. Because no matter what I tell you, it's not going to all work for you, no matter what Ramon tells you. So with INKPULP Instruction, that's kind of a big goal, is to, like you could be an artist and exist in a cave and have all the books, and you will develop and you'll get good. It will take, let's say, a lifetime. So I think what art school does is help to accelerate that learning process. And I was going to ask you guys, did you have any mentors, or did you meet an artist anywhere and just spending like an hour talking to someone, how that accelerated you dramatically? Did you have an experience like that?
I think Sheridan, the school we all went to, I think I didn't have any mentors specifically, but the cool thing about
the teacher.
Well, the cool thing about the program when I was there, it might have changed because the who can teach now at the program is a little bit different than who could teach back then. So now you need like a university degree to be a bit different. But back then, every teacher I had was a working professional at the same time. So like my tech teacher, he did like blowout drawings of like cars or manufacturing items. He did engineering stuff. My children's book teacher was an author who was established. She had done her own children's book. So they had all gone down this road. And so while I maybe didn't have one mentor specifically, all these people kind of inform me of the journey, and a couple of them which were great. Like I think any school you go to, you latch on to a few teachers, whoever they are, because whether they click with you or whatever it is. Because really, at that point in your life, you're kind of transitioning. You're into adulthood, so you're not. You're the teacher and the student, but you can also approach these teachers as adults, as equals to a degree, and they'll talk to you as such, right? So I had a couple of like up and downs in the program, and I remember like one teacher specifically pulled me aside and she was like, Ramon, you're fine. You're going to get work after you graduate from here. So play around, try different styles. Because I was trying to be so specific in my goal. She was like, here's where you can fail and like try different things, do whatever you want. Try acrylic, try oil paint, try watercolor, try whatever you need. If you're not, if it doesn't succeed, but at least you're getting a feel for different things. And that was actually kind of a very eye-opening experience, allowing me to kind of be okay with failing, because with failing, you also learn from that. You figure out, what you need to improve on and what those next steps might be, right? So that was actually a few teachers were like that, and they're really great with just letting us, F around and just discover our artistic abilities, which I think is a big part of being, whether you're a writer or an artist or a musician, is finding your voice, basically, and that was really great.
I think failure is our best teacher, and I remember when I would have like my intro to comics class, I would say, in order to be good at this, you need to make a million mistakes. Yeah. So just start making them and getting them out of the way.
Yeah, and I think that's for me, my biggest career move, in actually getting out there, was just literally just no holds barred, just putting your stuff out there. Whether it was, I'm a little bit before pre-internet, so I was just putting together mailers, just sending them out to everywhere. And then after that, once the internet started to come up, I'd be like, oh, I'm going to do a comic strip online, make a website. I learned how to code and built a website and put stuff out there, and that stuff, maybe not right away, but years later, that led to children's book work, and that eventually led to work at Marvel, because people just see your skills, they see your dedication, and it's just a step-by-step improvement. So while I've been working for 25 years, probably only the past decade to 15 has been comic books. Before that, I was advertising, graphic design, children's books. You go down these roads, and all that knowledge you get feeds your skill set. So the work I did in graphic design or advertising helps me today compose a page, because it's just another facet of design and balance and elements like that, right? So everything you do feeds into it. So you might not get your dream, I wanted to work in comics. I thought, well, this is where I belong, so I like storytelling, but I kept getting, well, you're good, but we don't have anything. So I was like, all right, well, I can't go here. I'm going to go over there. Or if they won't, I'll just make my own stuff and put it online. And but even by doing that, you're improving your skill set constantly, right? So it's a different road.
I think the point of what we're hearing here is that it's the dedication of wanting to do it, right, is going to be the thing that gets you through. So when it comes to doing a career in art, as Ramon's saying, there was no work at a certain time, so it's okay, well, I want to do it enough that I'm going to make my own and put it here, and I'm going to do this. You may have to work at Starbucks for a bit, but you're still doing your art and still working, and then eventually, if you have a skill set that somebody's looking for, that's when you get your first gig, and that one rolls into another one if you do it well, and that's just. Yeah. It's just kind of grinding, and before you know it, you look back, and I do this a lot myself. I'll sit at home and I'm kind of okay, I'm not a millionaire by any means, but I've literally had a 20-year career drawing stuff for people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's paying my rent. It's
even
paying
your
my
worst
food.
day is not I draw superheroes or dragons or whatever it is.
Yeah, I designed a character for a video game last week, and then I'll be sometimes oh man, and even I'm not where I want to. I haven't done this kind of book, or I haven't done this or made a movie or whatever, and I kind of look back and go, yeah, but I've done all this stuff, and at the time I was doing it, I didn't think I was in a career in art, right? Mm-hmm. But it's just kind of, then you go, wow, I'm actually doing it. So,
yeah, I get asked a lot, what's the most important thing you need as a person to make this into a career? And I think Dax just nailed it. It's the interest. It's the passion. It's that no matter how many people say no to you, you're going to keep going forward with it. And if you don't have that, then get out, because it's not a casual lifestyle. It's not an easy lifestyle. And as hard as it is to get in, I discovered staying in is even harder.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I remember early on, I would get odd jobs here and there at Marvel or DC doing a one-off. And that actually came to me by doing things like this, shows, and meeting other writers and other artists and networking, which I think is also, as Danesh said, it's a big factor of a career, like connections, and you don't want to say that, but it's an important facet, I think, as well.
Sure.
You know, I would meet writers and stuff that respected the work I was doing, so when they would get hired by Marvel, they'd be like, oh, we want Ramon Perez to draw the comic, and the editor would be like, who's Ramon Perez? Like, we don't know who this guy is. So then I'd send them my work. They're like, okay, and it would lead to something, but never anything beyond that one issue. I would do an issue, be well received, editor would love it, but then it's like, it's a lot of false starts.
Yeah.
So you just, you go out and do other stuff, and then eventually, I always joke, because like I did a graphic novel, Tale of Sand, which won a bunch of Eisners, and then all those companies that I was trying to get work from for like a decade were suddenly going, hey, come work for us. And I was like the overnight sensation, but I'm like, you've been building for 10 years to get to become that overnight sensation, which I thought was kind of hilarious.
Yeah, I think that's normal. I don't think there's such thing as an overnight sensation, because anytime you hear that and you hear that artist or creator talk, it's like, no, I have a lifetime of trying to get here.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and then like you said, and staying in is also another part of the game as well. Like the kind of work you do, the relationships you maintain, the schedules you keep. You know, and it's tough. Like you're especially these days where you're not only you're the artist, but you're also your promoter. Your financier, your bookkeeper, like you're everything these days, you know, which adds a whole other element to your facet of your career, right? Like,
Absolutely.
You know,
absolutely.
Like back when I started, there was no I didn't have to promote anything. That was the publisher's problem.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's like what used to be a career now is a business.
Yeah.
Working for a publisher was a career. Now it's your business, and that's just one aspect of it.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because they'll be like, okay, can you retweet this? Can you share this on Instagram? And I'm like, yeah, in the beginning of my career, I was like, I just handed in the work and walked away to the next project, right?
Yeah.
You know, so it's a very everybody has a different road, but yeah, it's a fun road.
What about you guys? Any mentors or teachers that really help speed up the learning process for you?
It's funny, so there's two things in terms of mentorship. Like I always find mentors in the odd places where I don't expect them. Like I don't have like a Yoda I can go to, who's like sitting drawing on top of a mountain. I can be like, oh Yoda, how do I do this? It's always like,
we need a Yoda.
yeah, I wish I had a Yoda, but there's, you know, like once I was like I was life drawing at there were a bunch of people playing chess at midnight at a park in Toronto, and I was just drawing some people playing chess, and a guy was watching me from behind, and he just leans over to my shoulder, and he looks at my work, and he looks at me and says, "Looks like you're drawing, but are you thinking?" And I was like, and I was stunned. I didn't expect that.
And then he vanished.
It was Yoda.
Yeah. And that was like, and that really, and I wasn't thinking. I was just drawing, and I was like, what am I doing? Like,
Right.
And it made me go down a path, and then,
That's
it's
awesome.
weird places, like you get kind of these ideas. So I think you just have to be open to it. As long as you're open to change and improvement, and don't think you're already there, then as long as you're receptive, you will receive. So
That's
very true.
I think that is one of the. I sat in on a workshop with Walter Simonson when I was in art school, and Walter was one of my heroes and one of the best, still doing it, and to have ever done comics. And I remember him saying, I'm just a student of this. And I'm sitting here thinking, oh, you're a teacher. But he went on to talk about how important it is to just always have that student mentality. You never know. Someone can come up to my table who's never worked professionally as an artist, and we can have a conversation, and they could leave, and they have no idea. They just taught me something about my own art that I can't wait to put to use. Mm-hmm. So I think it is important to never have that like, oh, I'm higher than that person now, or I've made it, I'm done. And I also think that when you get to that mentality, it's like the death of the artist. When you stop learning, I mean, to me, I think of art as just a lifelong journey of learning and progressing with your creative endeavors. And to feel like you've gotten to the end of the road, that's a horrifying idea for me, because I've seen it happen to artists, and their work just stops.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no more love in it, there's no more passion in it, there's no more curiosity in it, there's no more play in it. And when that happens, it's like you just watch them shrivel up. And I think that is a choice. Like, if you turn off the letting in new information and new ideas,
challenging yourself.
Right. If you turn that off, you're just going to be that flower that isn't getting water, and you're going to shrivel and fall off the branch.
So mentor for me, absolutely, and this goes to, I was fresh out of college, wanted to be a Disney animator, but there was a studio that, like, we were all doing our, you're doing your college day, trying to get interviews and whatnot, and there was a studio that I'd heard of in Toronto called Yowza, and it was 3 brothers that were ex-Disney, like they pretty much, like the animation guy, the director, the animation director, had done like Roger Rabbit and all the way up to Tarzan. So he was like a Disney kind of animator, right? So they were doing, I think at the time they were working on Osmosis Jones. This is a movie that came out years ago, and it was a big deal because it was being done in Canada, and they were doing a part of this big movie for Warner Brothers. So I went over there, obviously gave my stuff, and they were very nice. Said, "Oh yeah, this is really nice, but we don't have time." So it's the first example in my career where, like, I had another job, like I got a job doing something else for like a design for web company or something like that, but I was not into it at all. I did my work, but like I was literally on my lunch break going downstairs, and every Friday I was calling this studio and being, hey Roger, how you doing? How's the project? Yeah, it's going great. I'm like, okay, good. Just wanted to check in, see how. He goes, yeah, we're still if we get more spots, we'll let you know. Turns out the best day of my life is when I got home one random afternoon, and there was a message on the voice. We used to have phones that you pick up, and there was a machine with a cassette in it that would like record what the person said, and then they'd hang up. Yeah. And so I played that, and it was, "Hi Dax, would we like you to come in and do some in-betweening for us?" And that would change my life, and I was like, did the dance and stuff. So, but anyways, fast forward a bit. After that job, I wanted to animate. In-betweening is more of like a junior job, right? So I wanted to animate actual scenes, so doing the whole right? And fast forward to my first scene, they let me animate a year later on 8 Crazy Nights. So this was the Adam Sandler Hanukkah movie. Didn't matter what it was, I was getting to do lead animation, and it was huge. So here I am, pretty much fresh out of college. Passion, but not, the skills were not quite at the, industry standard. But I will never forget this guy. This is we're talking the nicest dude in the world. I remember I'm sitting there sweating, like we're talking stressing out. I'm not good enough. I do my scene, put it down, film it on the camera, boom, shoot it, and he comes and sits down, pulls up a chair, and I'm like, oh God. He's like, okay. It's like, that's nice. And it was just like a vowel expression, like, wow, one of those things. He's like, okay, here, bring your paper, here, bring it in. And literally for about 2 months, I'd do a scene, shoot it, and he'd say, give me your paper, let's go. And he'd take me into his office, and literally, we're talking, he's sitting there, explaining what worked, what didn't work, and stuff like that. I will never forget that man. He took me to a level where I'll never forget this first time he didn't ask me to see the pages. He was like, looks great. And he walked away, and I was just like, oh my God. So, awesome. Yeah, and then everyone in the studio just was like, oh, this looks really good scene, and that was like 2 years later. So, I mean, that Roger was amazing, and he's always, like, he's at the top of my list of mentors. And yeah, you'll bump into those people, and it takes, like, it seems, I feel like you're a good teacher. I can tell by your passion for it, and like wanting to give back, and like, that kind of thing. And that's what Roger was. He's just like, you're going to run into these people in your career that aren't just kind of like there to do it. They want to give back and whatnot, and that's what he was for me. And it definitely molded a lot of my talent. It kind of like boot camped me into, beginning of my career, which I'll never forget. So
I've had similar experiences to that, and I just found that when an artist takes the time to sit down with you and let you into their head and their thoughts and their reasons and their practice, that to me was just like such an accelerant for my own development. I wasn't even drawing, just hearing the words and watching it be put to use was the best teaching I'd ever had, and that really is what's inspired INKPULP Instruction for me, is to create that for the world so that everyone can learn it.
Nice.
So you want to ask?
Yeah, you want to? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think now's a good time. Let's have questions if you have any. I don't want to do all the talking.
Yeah.
You had your hand up a second ago.
You guys are fantastic, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Ton of insight. Dax, you said something that kind of struck me, and it was the whole, sometimes you gotta work at Starbucks, right?
Yeah,
It's the typical kind of artist story.
Yeah.
But as long as you have the drive, as long as you have the desire, you have to push the home to kind of get there. As a parent, I'm the same age as you guys, right? I think.
I'm old.
You look pretty young.
I don't see any.
There's no gray.
I'm lucky I don't grade, but anyway. So as a parent, my big girl, she's talented, right? Looking for the career, looking at kind of getting into school, all the rest of that.
Sweet.
When you come across somebody that feels like, oh, I'm not good enough, and I hear you guys kind of talking about that.
Yep.
What advice would you give to your child when you hear that? You see them, you see the talent, you see that they have something there, but constantly hear, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. But there is still that drive to kind of get there.
So what do you tell your child when they say they're not good enough? I think it's been clear this is an artist mentality. I'm not good enough. I still feel that way.
We all feel that way.
It's it's imposter syndrome. When are they going to discover I shouldn't be doing this? I think the best thing you as a parent can do is just be a source of positivity. Just encourage them. If they lose interest, that's okay. But as long as they're just at it every day, they're going to get better. And so with my kids, I learned very early on to not give them a critique. I just, early on, I'm talking early on, that is great. And even to this day, it's I'll give them 90% positive feedback and then give them a little nugget that excites them. So it's you did all this awesome stuff. Now, what if you tried this? And it's oh, that gives them something to go back and try. Then they come back to you with that. So if you're not an artist, you can't do that, obviously. But I would say just say, I love everything you've done here. I know you don't feel you're good enough, but a good thing to remind an artist is you're not creating art for artists. Very few realize that. You're creating art for people who aren't artists. And that's that is knocking down a brick wall when they realize that.
I only figured that out. Sorry to jump in, but you've inspired me.
Go ahead.
I figured that out maybe 5 years ago. Because I was up until 5 years ago.
Yeah, I think I
so hard on myself all the time. And here's another thing, too. I think that's what makes an artist, in all fairness, is being hard on yourself, but wanting to get better.
Yeah.
So, it is kind of you're kind of hurting yourself because you're giving yourself stress and going oh, I'm not good enough, but it kind of pushes you to keep getting better. Now, here's the thing. About 5 years ago, I remember, I think I was talking, again, a lot of my stories come back to Scotty Young, because I was talking to this guy, we just met over a podcast, and I started talking to the Scotty Young, that people know of Marvel and all this stuff, but we started talking just on Skype and stuff, and the nuggets, there's another mentor, he was throwing nuggets at me, just just do it, put it out there, what you said, and then things I started realizing that the drawings I do, I would never take compliments in, people would say, this is sick, right? And if it wasn't my peers saying that, I was you don't know.
Right.
You don't know, this is garbage, this is trash, right?
That's true.
But then I had just kind of hit this, I was when I'm putting this comic out on the internet, 99% of the people seeing it couldn't draw a stick man. The people that say, I can't draw a stick man. So give yourself a little credit, you know what I mean, and say, you know what, as long as I'm happy with this, or I'm enjoying it, and you'd be surprised that, what you said, that you're not drawing for your peers. You know what I mean? People will enjoy, as soon as you put words and a drawing on page, you've made a comic. And then there's going to be somebody out there that goes, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what I would say.
Yeah.
Don't beat yourself up too much. Do it for the love of it, and, you'll...
And real quick on top of that, I would So one thing that really helps me, and my kids are older now, but if I could do this would be great. Go to a TikTok or a Instagram page where the artist is mediocre, but has hundreds of thousands of followers and millions of likes, and say, see, they're very aware of who their audience is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You are up first, and we'll get to you.
Hey, sorry, we came in a little bit after the intro, so I'm not sure your name, but it's been awesome so far. That was like super. That you did break a brick wall down in my head just now.
Nice.
Awesome.
To get on to my question, I'm not sure what your name is on the left, on your left.
Oh, Danish.
Danish?
Yes.
So you talked about, you gave that funny example of the guy who's like creeping on you and he's like, what are you thinking? And then you hear. So
Yeah.
what do you find yourself thinking now when you're drawing?
What do I think when I'm drawing?
Yeah, because you said it kind of like open your eyes to that.
Where's he going to come out of now?
Present and mindful.
Yeah, I think so. And
We'll say what I just said.
yeah,
You may
maybe
not
President
heard
might. That's what Dax says. Yeah. You know, the whole time while we're going through this, I'm just trying to think about one sort of general thing that keeps me kind of improving. Like my key, if I would look at one thing that I would say has led to my improvement, is to constantly do what you think you can't. Like I think that's the only real way of learning is when you, because there are a lot of times when you feel you're not ready for something, so you say, I'm not good enough to do this.
Yeah.
That is a sign that you should do it.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
That is the best sign that you should do it. Like, I'll tell you one thing, my longest comic book up till last year was 6 pages. That's the longest comic I ever did. Someone approached me to do a 200-page graphic novel.
Yeah.
That was my next thing.
Yeah.
And I could say, I'm not ready. I've only done 6 pages.
Yeah.
Before 6 pages, I had done 0 pages. But then I did 6 pages because I felt like I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Now I've done 6 pages, I'm like, okay, that's 200 pages. That's about 50 times more. It's just, I think if you constantly are pushing yourself to do things that you feel you can't do, that's how you
To
grow.
surprise yourself, yeah.
Yeah,
And-
you need to
and-
surprise yourself.
What I took from that story, what that means to me is when someone says, but are you thinking? It's like, don't turn off your brain and just draw. It's not saying have a reason, it's saying use your mind to analyze that visual information. Don't just go into automatic pilot and draw. That's what I took from it.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't actually answer your question. Sorry about that.
Thank you. That's
And also the other thing about that is like you were approached, so someone clearly thought you were ready, even if you didn't think you were ready. So that is a bit of vote of confidence in towards you, that you're like, great editors and publishers will do that over the years, where excuse me, you'll get that nudge and you might not think you're ready, but you dive in. And those next 100 pages, you evolve, you grow, you get better, and you do something amazing.
Yeah, my first job, they called me. I'd been trying to break into comics for a while, and DC Comics called me, and I ended up on the phone. I couldn't believe what I was saying. I was trying to talk them out of giving me the job. I was like, I don't know if I'm ready. Like, you don't want me. I'm a newbie. And they were like, Sean, we want you. You're gonna be fine. I was like, all right, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah, sometimes in your career you'll just agree to things just because you're like either excited or it opens up a door to the next level or an opportunity. And sometimes you won't even actually, like, I've had many instances where you don't even think if you're ready or not. You're kind of just after the fact, you're like, oh, what did I just agree to?
Yeah.
But then you're like, well, I'm here now. I'm gonna do it, and you just kind of step up, and you're whether you like learn on the job or whatever, you just barrel through, because that's, I think anybody who wants to take a career on like we have, and not like, I'm not trying to pat us on the back, but it's a very aggressive career in the sense, like, you're not going to a job where you're sitting down and earning a regular paycheck. You're literally fighting for every move you make over the years and all the connections you do. So it's a very proactive career rather than a reactive career. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and I think that just speaks to, you know, how you approach your career. But even just by thinking about doing one, you're already in that mindset of like, I'm ready for it. Let's do it. Let's gear forward, basically.
Yeah, I think you had a question, and we're running out of time, but let's get you in.
I think if we
Just want to say thank you for the workshop. And my quick question is, have you had any experience of censorship done by anybody who try to censor your work, such as arts being themselves?
Oh, have we experienced censorship? I haven't experienced censorship. Well, yeah, okay, I've experienced censorship, but not for any politically incorrect reasons. I think I was showing too much cheek one time.
I think I've had lots of editorial changes on certain jobs because, excuse me, like I remember I did a cover, my first cover for Archie, and I was excited. I wanted to do this amazing cover, and I had so many changes on that cover because the editor thought the way I had positioned Archie, Betty, and Veronica was very sexualized, and they thought it suggested too much, where I just saw like an innocent Norman Rockwell image, and I'm like, I don't know what you're seeing here, but you clearly have a dirty mind, and like, you know, but it went through like so many changes, but finally we agreed on a final one, but it was definitely an uphill battle to, like, you know, and that's also what you'll find out in a career is basically you are doing your best work, but at the same time it is a client, they will want certain things changed, and you know, but nothing. I mean, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I've never experienced anything like censorship like what Spiegelman just went through with Mouse. Oh yeah, no.
I haven't experienced that.
No, not for me.
No, me neither.
Well, your stuff where you're getting arrested there, you said in Dubai for.
Oh yeah, I mean, like more in terms of professional work, not really. Yeah.
Is there any more questions? I think we can get one more in. Right there.
This clarify, what's your take on drawing hands? I'm not that good, I'm still working on them, so very strict.
Oh, it's time for a lesson. If I had paper, I could show you. I have some good tricks. Actually,
come by his table.
Yeah, come by my table. But I also, if you go to YouTube and search INKPULP, I have on YouTube a little How to Draw Hands podcast up there.
There you
so
go.
I do have that, and that's free.
Yeah. One more? Or?
You had a question?
Hi, I'm in an animation program, and it's my last year, so I was wondering if you have any finance or like tax tips.
Good question. Really good question. I don't live in Canada, so I can't answer it. But it's good you're thinking about that. That's the one thing I really wish I, as an artist, was more schooled and versed in, like business and finance and stuff like that. But I don't know the tax system.
Sorry, I totally missed the question.
She was saying, do you have any advice? She's like, if you're working, like how to prepare for taxes and financial
receipts,
stuff.
keep them all.
I mean, I guess I'm not sure because the animation industry works maybe differently than a freelance. Oh, okay, freelance.
Yeah.
I mean, well, as one of my professors at Sheridan once said, he's like, you find a bill on the street, pick it up, and write it off.
Yeah.
So be aware of what you're spending your money on, especially if you're freelancing. Things like, you know, if you're working from home, write off a portion of your rent. If you have a studio, write off your studio. You're picking up, if you're a big fan of movies and you're buying movies on Blu-rays or you're downloading them and paying for them on Apple TV, write that off. That's
I guess I would say, get an accountant.
Yeah.
Like,
that helps.
like spend the money. Like when you're a starving artist, you're like, I can't afford that. But if you do spend the money, they're going to save you probably more than you're spending.
Yeah.
And they're going to train you to have better financial habits as a freelance artist. So as you get better and grow and your career grows, your future is so much more solid.
Yeah. To counterpoint that a little bit, though, I would like to say that it is actually good. One lucky thing I had was I had a friend of the family who was an accountant, so he never did my taxes for me, but I did my own, and I kind of figured out where to put things, and it kind of educates you to how to go about and approach what you're writing off, what you're spending your money on. You know, you suddenly do your taxes and go, wow, I spent $10,000 on eating out at McDonald's this year. This is bad. You know what I mean? So even if you like could do them and then, you know, have someone look them over, whether it's a peer or a colleague or whatever it is, it's important because up until a certain, especially in Canada, up until you're earning like $30,000 as a freelancer, you don't have to charge taxes, right? So it's actually super simple. And even if you screw up on your paperwork, the government isn't going to like come and take your home away. They're just going to send you a letter and say, hey, we ran your numbers, we're concerned this might be a little bit off. Can you provide your receipts or whatever it might be. Like I've been audited twice and it was like, here you go, and they're like, thank you, that's it. Okay, you owe us $40 more. I'm like, awesome. So learn that stuff. And once you get up to a level where you're having to actually start charging taxes or whatever it might be, then yeah, maybe get an accountant, but at least you know how your finances work. So when you're talking to your accountant, you know what they're doing for you. Like just quick funny story, but I actually had at one point I had a girlfriend who offered, to her guy to do my taxes for me. And he brought it back. He's like, okay, so you owe $15,000. And I was like, dear Lord. He's like, do you want me to send them in? I was like, no, I'll redo them myself. I brought it down to $5,000 owing and sent them in. So like, because he was just a regular, 9 to 5 kind of guy. He didn't know how to do creative stuff, right?
You need an accountant who understands the freelance lifestyle.
So you can learn a lot. But yeah, if you ever come by our studio, we talk a lot about that at our studio too. So we're in the same area if you have any questions. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the INKPULP podcast. This is the INKPULP podcast. Comics, hip hop, life.